I know self-publishing's not for everyone. Nothing is. But if you've considered self-publishing for even a minute, listen up, because I'm betting I know what's holding you back from exploring it further or getting started. Number one, you think the self-publishing process is a lot harder than it actually is. And number two, you're understandably afraid of doing it, air quote, wrong. So I've created a new free resource for you. It's called the Self-Publishing Starter Kit, and you can get instant access to it by clicking the link in the show notes or visiting publishaprofitablebook.com/self-publishing 101. In this free training, you'll discover the exact 4 steps to focus on and mistakes to avoid so you can publish an incredible book that's indistinguishable in quality from a New York Times bestseller without overthinking, overguessing, or overspending in areas that won't make a difference. Again, visit publishaprofitablebook.com/self-publishing 101 to get instant access. Welcome to the Write the Damn Book Already podcast. My name is Elizabeth Lyons. I'm a 6-time author and book editor, and I help people write and publish powerful, thought-provoking, wildly entertaining books without any more overthinking, second-guessing, or overwhelm than absolutely necessary. Because let's face it, some overthinking, second-guessing, and overwhelm is going to come with the territory if you're anything like me. I believe that story and shared perspective are 2 of the most potent ways we connect with one another, and that your story, perspective, and insights are destined to become someone else's favorite resource or pastime. For more book writing and publishing tips and solutions, and plenty of free and low-cost resources, visit publishaprofitablebook.com. And for recommendations of fabulous books you've possibly never heard of, book writing inspiration, and the occasional meme so relatable you'll wonder if it was created with you in mind, follow me on Instagram at Elizabeth Lyons Author. Hello. Well, I don't know if anyone noticed, I took a little break. So I didn't record anything for, I think, 2 weeks. I think we've been on a little 2-week hiatus. Sometimes you just need to take a break, and that's okay. Sometimes you need to take a break from podcasting. You definitely need to take a break from social media, or I do. And for everyone out there who really loves consistency and doing it no matter what, I applaud you. I celebrate you. And also, I really just don't think the world comes to an end if you take a week or 2 off. So that's what we did around here. This week, I'm going to do a shorter solo episode because last week, in our book writing collective call, we meet twice a month and we chat through all things book writing and publishing and launching and marketing and crazy making. And then we also meet every week virtually. So I wish it were in person, but virtually via Zoom. And we have a co-writing session and we're all just in there on mute, no video, just writing. It's been phenomenal for many of us for accountability, myself very much included. If that sounds like something you are needing in your life, check out the show notes, or you can go to publishaprofitablebook.com/collective for all the details. It's a month-to-month program, so you can hop in whenever you need it and hop out when you no longer do. Although I like to hope you'll be in there with us forever. But it was during that call a week or so ago when I had this realization and things started to kind of come together for me. And the irony is not lost on me that it's taken a lot of calls with us and a lot of conversations for me to land on this one particular, I don't know if you want to call it a knowing, that may be taking things a little too far, but this realization about book writing. And I'll cut right to the realization and then I'll backtrack a little bit and give you some more information. So the realization was that so many of us, and I'm included in this many times, think the book is the solution. In other words, writing the book is the solution. So let me explain, because this really creates a bit of an unanticipated roadblock in book writing, specifically for those who are writing memoir or nonfiction. You have no doubt had an experience in your life that you wanted a solution to quickly. So you went out and you bought a book, or you found a therapist, or you got a new vitamin or a supplement or protein powder, Or if you're like me, you went to Lowe's and you tried a new brand of super glue and you thought and you hoped and you might have even prayed, this is the thing that's going to fix everything. Like if I just start taking more vitamin D, I'm going to be more awake in the afternoon. But what I think is so interesting about this particular conversation is I'm curious how many people who have participated in therapy or counseling or however you want to say it have walked in and sat down and said to the therapist, exactly how many sessions will it take before I'm healed? I think, I mean, many of us might wonder that, but I don't know how many people are actually brave enough to ask it and not be asking it ironically, in jest, like sarcastically, I should say, because it's like, who knows? Sometimes people go to one, maybe it's like a maintenance therapy session and they work out one little issue and they feel good for a while. They are good to go and coast for a few more weeks. Some people are going to therapy 5 days a week until they can uncover something and feel better about something. There's no right or wrong way to do that, to be perfectly clear. But the point I'm trying to make is there is no hard and fast rule about how long therapy is going to take. And that's probably the one example I can think of where we don't think, oh my God, I hope this is it. Like, seriously, think about that for a second. And if you can think of an example of something where other than therapy, where we don't go in and hold someone to some sort of a standard on a timeline, let me know. I keep getting served up, and this is another reason I have to take a break from social media. These ads, apparently the new thing is calisthenics. Like, I thought that was a word from the 70s or the 80s. I don't know. But I keep seeing these ads for like, you've got to join this calisthenic thing because in 3 weeks, you can look like this. I mean, they'll say, like, in 3 weeks, you'll be toned. But of course, the woman who's shown has been, I think she works out 3 hours a day and has for her entire life. Now, I didn't buy into it this time, but of course, we see it and we think, oh my God, I'm going to look like that in 3 weeks. So again, there's just another area where you have this preconceived notion of 3 weeks, 9 sessions, 4 sessions of this or 6 sessions of that, and you're going to be good to go. Everything's going to be air quote fixed. And it occurs to me the more I think about it, I cannot think of another area beyond therapy where we don't have that thought necessarily. But slight digression. At any rate, I promise you, I have an island full of supplements in my kitchen, and I have hoped that every single one was going to be the one to make this whole perimenopause thing better. We're getting there, one supplement at a time. The thing is, we do the same thing many times when it comes to book writing, just no one really talks about it or realizes that other people are going through it or realizes what they're doing. So we think, I'll write my way into it, which is fair and valid. And I advise people to do that all the time and have advised that for years. Like, you write your way into the story, you write your way through the story, you write your way out of the story, however you want to. I've said it all the different ways. We don't get to the other side of the story, even in fiction, by just sitting here and pontificating. Like, we get into it, we write our way through it, and we're figuring a whole bunch of stuff out, fictional or not, as we're doing it. But for some reason, when we sit down to write nonfiction or memoir specifically, and we aren't able to write our way into it, through it, or out of it as quickly as we might either have hoped or have been told we would be able to, we have one of a few thoughts, and they usually sound something like this. Oh my God, I don't even know myself. Like, I don't know myself at all, so clearly that means I'm not supposed to do this. Another option is, well, I don't know nearly as much as I think I did. Like, I thought I could write a whole book on this, but I've written 3,000 words and I'm out of ideas. I've got nothing left to say. So clearly I'm not meant to do this. Another way I've heard this over the years is I got all of this down. I've written it all. I've gone back to journals. I've collaborated things. I've written linearly. I've written non-linearly. But the bottom line is I have 120,000 words. None of it makes sense. None of it goes together. I'm wildly confused and overwhelmed. And clearly that means I'm not supposed to be doing this. And I mean, much of the time, honestly, we come out of the whole thing going like, I clearly need therapy or another book to help me figure out why I can't write this book. So here's what I've come to recognize is it's that expectation that we go in with that because we've been told and it makes sense that we're going to write our way through the book, we're going to write our way into our thoughts about something or into our experience, and then we're going to go through it and we don't know how long it's going to take. It's like that dense, heavy, dark cloud that you walk out or you walk into on one end, and it's kind of you don't know how long you're going to have to trudge until you see the light at the end of the cloud and you start coming out, or use the old proverbial tunnel analogy if you must. But whether we admit it or not, we have some sort of a preconceived notion about how long it should take. And many times, this is the most challenging for people who have already written a lot. So perhaps they've filled several journals or notebooks or Google Docs or all of the above, and they think I've done 90% of the work already. So now all I have to do is collate all that and make it flow logically. But things happen while doing that are confusing and overwhelming, not the least of which is when you grab a journal from 5 years ago and read it and think, I don't even quite think that way anymore. And what we don't realize sometimes is that we went into it thinking the book is the solution. The writing of the book is the solution. So it's the supplement. It's the newer, better brand of super glue. Like, this is the solution, is just writing it. And the thing is that it isn't until it is. And no one can say how long that will take and what kinds of detours you will likely need to go on in the midst of it. I have talked to many an author on this podcast and not who have admitted that they worked on a book for years. And they've also admitted that they weren't writing every day for years. Sometimes maybe they had a baby in the middle of all of it, or they uprooted and moved across the country or internationally, or something else happened in their life that just took them away from the writing for a while. So to say, well, I've been writing my book for 8 years wasn't even really true or fair, because they started it 8 years ago and then they took a 14-month hiatus after year 2. But another thing that happens beyond that is people do get into the writing and recognize, actually, I don't know exactly how I feel about this, or I'm not really sure what I want to say about this, or I don't think I'm finished healing through this enough to write about it from a powerful standpoint, as opposed to still being in the pain of it. And when that happens, so many times we see that as a setback, as a reason to say, I'm not ready. I'm not supposed to do this. But that's not what it is. It takes more than one hand to count on my hands the number of people I've personally worked with who, in the midst of writing their memoir specifically, or a nonfiction that's infused with a lot of personal stories, they've had to take a break to go get therapy for things, because in the end, they wanted the final product to be powerful. And they knew that the way for that to happen was for them to best understand themselves so that they could best communicate that out in service to other people. So if you have found yourself in this place, my suggestion and my invitation is to enjoy the excavation and see the detours as a necessary part of the process. See if you can't get curious about and even excited about, like, what will the detour be? I've heard of people who go on trips or they go out driving and they just kind of end up, they go wherever they want. Like, they'll just take an exit. If they feel called to take an exit, they'll take an exit. Or if they're forced to take an exit because they live in Phoenix or anywhere in this country and construction seems to be happening nonstop, and they think they're going to drive from their house to downtown Phoenix, but then they're rerouted at 47th Avenue, 2 places before unknown. Some people will say, oh my God, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be on I-10. I don't know where I am. I'm going to be late. This isn't where I intended to go. And other people, and yes, sometimes it depends on what side of the bed you woke up on in the day of the week. And if you're in the middle of, perimenopausal rage, But some people will go, oh, I just saw that new thrift shop. I didn't know that was there. Or, oh my gosh, I just drove by the cutest indie coffee shop. I didn't know that was there. I think I'll stop and get a coffee on my way downtown. Now I'm downtown. Now I'll end up downtown with a coffee I didn't know I was going to have. So they can look at it with curiosity, not like a detour, but as sort of an unexpected part of the journey. Like I knew there was going to be a detour somewhere. I didn't know it was going to be on 51st Avenue, but here I am, and let's see how this goes down. There is no rule for how long it is supposed to take to write a book. There is nothing that says that good books are written in 48 hours. I've never known of one to have that, not even close. And there's and also on the flip side that phenomenal books don't sometimes take 20 years to write. I mean, if you listen to Abraham Verghese, who's the author of Cutting for Stone and The Covenant of Water, he'll say, and he said in engagements, that he spends 9 years or more on a book. I mean, I'm just, that was one book. I think that was The Covenant of Water that he said, he had been working on for like 9 years. We don't ever ask as readers. It's kind of weird. Sometimes we do, especially if we're also writers. We'll ask the author, like, how long did this take? But the general public, that's not their first question. Did you write this in a weekend? But truly, to get the most powerful thing on the page and to better understand yourself so that you can better serve your readers, it is so worth it to see all that as part of the journey. And even though you don't know what exit you're going to get off at or be forced to get off at, just know when you start your journey, you are not going directly from point A to point B. In all likelihood, there's going to be at least one detour, possibly 6. And again, if you're in Phoenix and it's July, you could be stuck in a haboob that you didn't anticipate and have to pull over for that reason too. If you don't know what that is, look it up because they are terrifying to watch from an aerial view. I swear I've been in several of them and they've never felt the way that they look from an aerial view. Sometimes my mom will call and she'll say, I saw the dust storm. It made national news. Like, are you okay? It was a blanket of dirt just rolling in on all of Phoenix. And I'm like, yeah, I was driving in. I mean, it was a little brown, but it was okay. So they really have a way of, I don't know, from a different vantage point, that really looks a lot scarier than sometimes it feels. But anyway, all this to say, if that happens to you, if you're feeling that way, if you have felt some of those things come out of your mouth, you're perfectly normal. You're just part of this elite group of us, who are all just trying to figure out how the hell to get this thing written before we're 100 years old. But I really think that having that expectation and that openness to that piece of the process is so important to not letting it stop you. That's it for today. I somehow kept this under 20 minutes. I think it's a miracle. I hope you are all doing wonderfully, are a little cooler than I am, albeit if you're dealing with intense humidity, I might rather be where I am. I'm not going to lie. But either way, may a cool breeze touch both of our lives very soon. I will talk to you again next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, this is your friendly reminder to follow or subscribe, leave a quick review, and share it with someone you know has a great story or message, but isn't sure what to do next. Also, remember to check out publishaprofitablebook.com for book writing resources and tips, and to see all the ways we can work together to get your book out into the world. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk with you again soon.